Okay, so the reason we're here. We're going to have a look tonight at an introduction to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And what I first of all just want to do is spend a few minutes talking about where this has come from and what our decision was to take this on as a product. As well as that, obviously a demonstration of the solution, and it's going to be a very high level demonstration of some of the great things that I think you would benefit from as businesses within the product. And then, of course, we'll get on with the wine tasting for you to enjoy. So I'm going to start with an introduction to Microsoft Dynamics 365. And we all know what our traditional software looks like. Sometimes when we sit down and think about it, it can be quite daunting, because not only do we have an account system sat in the middle, we've maybe got a bespoke database managing job costs or production or projects. We'll probably have a separate CRM system that maybe interacts with the finance system, maybe doesn't. Probably lots of spreadsheets that are managing our budgets, probably our fixed assets, our quoting, our invoicing, and our estimating and things like that. And all of that's going to sit on traditional infrastructure. And I say traditional infrastructure, absolutely that could be in the cloud. So you could be using what's called infrastructure as a service. So you're using traditional, what are called on-premise applications, but using them in a cloud manner. You do still need servers, even if they're in our data center or in another data center. And you do still need applications that need updates and maintenance. And those ongoing costs of the upkeep of that system and those bespoke changes and adaptations can be quite costly. But also how the data is managed can be quite costly, because depending on how that's configured, you could have multiple versions of the project costing spreadsheets. You could have multiple versions of the budget spreadsheets and being shared around the business. But it really does depend on how that's set up and managed. What we're going to look at tonight is cloud software, often referred to as SaaS, and SaaS, or SaaS, stands for Software as a Service. Absolutely, that still sits in a server in a data center somewhere. That isn't your responsibility, though. You don't have to maintain and upkeep that system with a cloud SaaS system. It will still get updates, but they're going to be automatic. You're not going to need to schedule them, you're not going to have to plan them in. The system will just deliver those updates to you. And it's all done via the cloud. So you, instead of just having to rely on a Windows PC or a remote desktop client, something to access that system and that infrastructure, you're going to be able to access that from any device. And that's what we're talking about in terms of Business Central. So that could be a native app on a mobile phone, or it could be a browser on a phone, it could be an iPad, it could be a MacBook, a tablet, a laptop, a desktop PC. It doesn't have to be your device, but what it does need to be is secure. And that's where Microsoft comes in with its product suite that it has available. The Microsoft Dynamics product suite sits as part of what is referred to as Microsoft 365. It's all built on the Azure platform, which is the hosting and data centers that are owned and managed by Microsoft. And in that Microsoft 365 product suite, there are traditional applications, although updated to be cloud available, such as Word and Excel and Outlook, our emailing capability, our the way our administration happens around the network, which is referred to as Active Directory or AD. That can be controlled within there, and you can use either Microsoft's inbuilt security tools or complementary third-party tools to allow you to securely provide access to that facility. And Microsoft Dynamics, with it being within that, is exactly the same. Within that 365 space as well are what are referred to as modern workplace applications, and you will have probably come across some of these. We've probably all been in a Teams meeting at some point in the last 2 years. We're in one now. But equally, there's tools such as Power BI and Forms that will allow us to collaborate better as a business and share information. Business Central that we're going to talk about tonight was originally known as a product called Navision. It was acquired by Microsoft back in 2002 and it was redeveloped from an on-premise solution to go into the cloud. It wasn't the first thing that Microsoft did with it. When they acquired it, they adapted it and changed how the product worked as an on-premise solution and added it to an existing portfolio of products that they had alongside things like Great Plains or GP as it's now known, and Microsoft AX. But what that solution gave to businesses was a full business management tool. So you are talking about everything. So from financial management and reporting and analytics to stock and procurement controls, sales management, including CRM, project costing, and even elements of HR are all within that application. Microsoft launched the first online version of Business Central in 2016, and over the last 6 years have developed and enhanced that product, with it now being in its 19th major release. And that new functionality and updates happen 2 to 3 times each year. We've chosen to work with Business Central as a solution to now offer to the businesses that we work with because we feel it really makes sense to how we now need to work. Cloud was something we were all talking about 2 years ago before the start of the pandemic, but it definitely is something that has become more and more prevalent and important to businesses, and that shift to cloud working or an adaptable way of working is definitely something that's happening faster and faster. We've selected Business Central because it works in the best of breed. It interacts with other tools that we're already using within a business, but it still offers that full product availability in terms of across the wider business, and also still has an API allowing us to integrate to it using other tools and also deliver customizations where they're needed. Some cloud systems will be as they are out of the box, and you'll go and purchase an add-on from a vendor. And absolutely you can do that with Microsoft, but it is possible to also build customization directly within the Business Central system. And it is because of that highly configurable and allows a lot more scalability within the solution. So we're going to have a look now over the next 20 minutes or so at what that solution looks like, and then we'll take any questions. I'm going to use Business Central today. I'm within Edge, but we could be using Chrome. I could be using this on my iPad as I say, but I'm just using this in my laptop in my office. When I log into Business Central, the whole system is built around the concept of roles. And some systems have this, it's normally functionality based and what access someone has, but Business Central kind of takes it to the next level. What the Role Centre or the home page does is provide you with the information that is relevant to your role within that organisation. There are a number of roles that come with the system out of the box, and these can be tailored and selected user by user. So in my case, I am using the business manager role, but equally I could be using the accountant's role, whatever is relevant to my job. System admins can build these and assign them to users, or users can choose which one, depending on their access. Within this Role Centre, it's giving me insights into things that are pertinent to me, and anytime any of these insights or these cues have a hyperlink associated with them, I can drill into more information. So do I want to go and have a look at the best-selling item, or do I want to just get on with my day, really is the decision. These cues and activities can be tailored. So within our queue setups, I am able to control alerting. So I can say, as we can see there, if the ongoing sales quotes are under 15, so we haven't quoted enough, do I want that tile to appear red? Or if we are happy that sales this month have hit the right level, do I not need a highlight on it? So kind of that traffic light alerting, allowing me to decide whether I want to do something about something. These all act as filters and drill downs, and we'll see cues in a number of different places throughout the system. I'm able to manage my entire day from within Business Central. So I can deal with approvals, I can deal with my emails, I can even get tasks lists. Now these could be tasks that are set up for a group of people, so the finance department month-end tasks can be configured, and then as people complete them, they can be ticked off. There can even be tasks set up linked to specific reports so that I don't have to go and find that report. I can just jump to it when I come to do that task, print it out, schedule it, email it, whatever I need to do, and mark that task as complete and move on with my next activity. I can get insights into data, so there are a number of dashboards that are inbuilt within Business Central, and these will allow me to look into things like business performance, cash flow, customer satisfaction, things like that. Again, these are drillable insights, so I can have a look at the data from which that was built from and actually have a look at reporting like our cash flow statement to see what's happening within the business, and even drill down into the transactions that make that up, allowing me to do that job quickly and easily and continue with my day. I can pin accounts to get favourites, I can have a look at my trial balance, and like I say, we can schedule reporting and tasks to happen in the background, so when I come in the morning I can pick up the month-end reporting that I set to run last night before I went home and get on with the month-end process quickly and easily. I mentioned before about the interaction with that Microsoft 365 suite, and this is one of the first areas we can see it. On this homepage and in other areas of the system, I can surface Power BI reports, and we've possibly heard of Power BI before. It absolutely is a key reporting tool that's available in the Microsoft suite. Not only can I surface reporting that is specifically related to Business Central, so I could be looking at my finance dashboard, I can also interact with this dashboard by moving into the focus mode and looking in more detail. And I can also actually manage this report and manage this data directly by popping out Power BI within Business Central itself and allowing me to do what I want and adjust and edit this report and drills and so on. But I can also surface data that directly relates to other systems. This is a plugin into Power BI itself. So if I'm using this to report on our EPOS system, our retail status reporting, I can surface those reports in Business Central, providing my users with one place to go and get that information from and not having to log into different areas. And the way it does this is linking those Microsoft licenses together. Within Business Central itself, we have a couple of choices in how users can interact with the system. We can have actual users, processing users, people who can financially impact the system, so raising orders, invoices, posting journals, things like that. Or we can have what are called team members, and team members could be your budget or stakeholders who need to get reporting. They need to look into those numbers, but they don't need to financially impact the system other than perhaps approving a purchase invoice or a purchase order. They don't physically raise the transactions themselves, so you can have that different license split. Not only can I interact with Microsoft tools within Business Central, I can also interact with Business Central within Microsoft tools. So for example, I can pop into Outlook, and we all spend a lot of time in our inboxes, I'm sure, and I can action things directly from Outlook without having to go into Business Central. I can do this within the Outlook web app, or I can do it within the the actual desktop client, depending on which I use. Because I'm using Microsoft 365, the two accounts are connected together in my case, but equally, if I still have an on-premise Exchange server, I can still have an Outlook plugin and I can still do some of this functionality. So Joanne sent me a request to authorise a purchase order. I can do that from directly within the system. So the purchase order is sent to me with a hyperlink. It gives me some of the headline details, but I want to have a quick look at it before I approve it. It'll take me to the purchase order record. It will allow me to view any attachments or documents that are assigned to this within my insights again. I've got my insights and queues that we saw when we looked at customers, so I could go and double check, have we had an invoice similar to this before? Have we had a charge like this before? Whatever we need to. I can have a look at the document, look at the line detail, check that it's coded correctly, correct the coding if I want to, but ultimately choose to approve it. That will update that status directly within Business Central immediately and mean that Joanne can get on with her day. Equally, if I was the purchase ledger person, I would be able to interact with purchase invoicing. So in much the same way as I can approve a transaction, I can also inquire on orders, even through documentation that's come from an external business. So Ewan works at First Up Consultants, one of our vendors. Through the Business Central Contact Insights, it will look up and view the information that relates to that account. And I could go and look at the outstanding POs and have a look at that specific invoice, what transaction it relates to. But Ewan's given me a bit more information in the body of the invoice, as a lot of vendors do. He's told me that this invoice relates directly to a specific sales order, and he's actually put that in the body of the email. The AI inbuilt into Business Central will build hyperlinks around the data that it thinks you need to look at. So again, it will hyperlink me to what it thinks I need to see in this case. And it's the purchase order, absolutely 80 London swivel chairs. I'm able to check the pricing, and I could, if I wanted to, post that invoice and attach that PDF directly from Outlook. Similarly, when customers contact me, I could raise a sales transaction and the AI will read the body of the invoice in order to make predictions of what it wants to deal with. So if I choose, I'm going to raise this as a sales order. It will go off and it will match up the email address against the contact and find the relevant account. And using that AI capability, it knows that Athens Desk is a product I sell. It knows that by the number being in that email line, it must be the quantity that she wants to order. And I can even add other lines for perhaps an unboxing or installation service, or a line that links to a GL code directly within Outlook. It'll take me into the order details. I could add any requested delay dates that she's asked for, or otherwise that's posted live back into the system. The final email I've got to action relates to a customer inquiry. So I'm probably not going to be able to deal with that in Outlook, but I can just jump back because I'm in the same environment, come into my customers, into tray research, and start and have a look at their account. Well, she said she wants me to give her a ring about what's happening with the account. So I could have a look at my snippets or my queues to see if there are any outstanding orders that haven't happened. I could equally filter down into their overdue amounts. It's probably what she's going to want to talk to me about. I can have a look at the transactions myself. I can even have a look at any related documentation or attachments. and even drill into other entries that directly relate to this posting within Business Central. I've not been able to see anything clearly that I can see as the reason why she'd want to talk about it, but I'd rather get in front of it if there's something I need to be aware of. So from directly within Business Central, I can share this information with the wider team. I can contact the logistics department through Teams and ask them to look into it for me. Apologies. Spelling. I can then continue with my day and they can go and get me the information. They can communicate back to me through Teams and we can have an interaction by sharing that data. There's going to be lots of other areas that we need to update and interact with as well. And I think one of the other key benefits of Business Central is its integration into Microsoft Outlook. Sorry, into Microsoft Excel. Excel is a tool that we all use on a day-to-day basis. We're never going to get away from using it. It is a fantastic tool for what it does. But what we should be doing is using it in the correct way. And when I say that, what I mean is letting the system drive the data and using it for its analysis purposes. Or if we do manage data within it, not rekeying that information back into the system. So we could update and maintain our general ledger budgets, for example. Our budgets can be defined across general ledger code, but also across multiple dimensions of analysis. Business Central doesn't have a single structure to its general ledger and its analytics. Across the entire system, there is this concept of dimensions. And when you think about these dimensions, they are ways of slicing the data. What are the things that you spend time grouping together and analysing within Excel? Why not track that within the system? And a lot of people are unable to do that because they don't have user-defined or analytics fields, or they're not able to control or restrict how people interact with those analytics. With Business Central, we can define dimension codes that will allow us to not only map the key slices that we need to do. In my case, I want to analyse by department, by things like sales and production, and in the case of customer group, their sizes. But these could be contract terms, they could be information relating to on-site and off-site work. It could be billable and non-billable work, whatever we need. These can be used in the general ledger, but we can also expand on it further by allowing us to do full cost accounting outside of the general ledger and use those analytics codes even further. They can be used within sales transactions, defaulted on a customer record, or overridden as transactions are entered. They are used everywhere, and it allows us to merge and group that stuff together. We can change analytics if it isn't working for us and relabel those analytics, and we can even put controls in place. So for example, if I've got a department code of production, I probably don't want to see any income related analytics. So I could set up dimensions, restrictions and combinations that only allow me to choose certain codes in certain combinations to maintain the accuracy of our reporting. So I've set my budgets up to use 2 levels of the dimensions, but my system has also got multiple other levels of dimension within it. Budgeting, be it on a general ledger level, either a sales ledger, purchase ledger, or costing, can all be maintained within Business Central. We can do this in a number of ways. I could maintain these budgets directly within the system. So I could simply be looking at and managing last year's budgets, or in this case, the demo data is set up as the current year, but I could be managing it directly in this screen, and I could just simply key these in. So I could simply say that actually, I do just want a £5,000 income budget against my admin department because we didn't have one already. I can equally copy this budget. So once I've created the budget for 2021 and I come in and I want to revise it, I could, within my budgets, copy it. I'm going to copy it to a new budget. So I want to copy it to FY21 version 2. I'm going to call it version. And I could choose I now want to start and include extra dimensions if I want to, or I can just choose OK. I'm just doing it for my P&L and just for a specific range. So perhaps I don't want the entire year, I only want the second half of the year. That will then process and copy those over for me. And if I come back into my budgets list and change my date filter, it will show me the budgets that it's just set up. I could then, if I want to, export that out to Excel and make changes to it, and then import that back into the system. So that's one way in which we can interact with Excel. So it's not a live connection, but it is an instant output and an instant read back in. And there are controls around how that's read back in. So we can see the budget's only been applied for the remaining 6 months of the year, as we mentioned. And I'm going to just apply a couple of additional entries in there. I'm going to just write back in those extra values. To do that, I would simply choose to upload. And I could have just had a template that I have saved on in my OneDrive that will allow me to upload budgets, providing I know the budget name, that's the control it needs, and I can choose whether I want to replace or add entries to that budget, what the description is, and import accordingly from that file. Another way that I could manage this is I've realised I didn't want to do that, and I actually wanted to edit some more specific information. So I could actually open the information that's been imported in directly within Excel. Opening within Excel will allow me to see reporting, and we'll see that in a second, and editing in Excel will allow me to change and send back values. This is something that's available across the whole Business Central system. So not only within budgets, but we could post journals in this way, interact with sales transactions, upload costing information. We can even update stock or customer records to have new analytics. All we would do is go to the form like I just have and edit in Excel, and the system uses an inbuilt validation tool and a connector back to my user details to say whether I can and can't do this function, but also to validate the data that has to be included. So if I were to remove a column that is needed, the system will write that back correctly for me. What I've realised is I didn't actually want that production line to be linked to large. I wanted it to be linked to small customers, and the value wasn't 2,500, it was £25,000. I can publish that. It will update back. If there were any alerts, I would have a message center alert that I could pick up. But otherwise, if I just refresh my page, we can see that it's rewritten that value for me and updated the relevant line. That Excel integration, I really feel, is a massive benefit to customers' businesses. There are systems that do have interactions within the Excel sphere, and they will allow you to process and update transactions, but it's not going to allow me to do it to this same level. This inbuilt integration into things like Excel, into Outlook, and into Teams and SharePoint are really where the benefits within the Dynamics system come from. We have inbuilt approvals like we saw for transactional reasons, but also for database changes too. So we can control approvals around creation or addition of customers, change of credit limits and so on. The Business Central system has a lot more to it than obviously we've just seen. So if I have a look at the wider system outside of my role, there is a wealth of functionality, be it from goods handling, full warehouse management, picking and packing, through to employee management, timesheet submission, and even resource management for machines and people. The Business Central solution offers you a full, complete system that will allow you to fully manage the business and interact in a collaborative way with the wider organisation, allowing you to work the way that you need to. So I want to thank you for your time. And if there's any questions, obviously, please feel free to ask them now or send them through your account manager.